What's up, guys? We're back with the 21st episode of the 5D Warrior Podcast. As always, I'm John, here with my co-host,
Corey.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about observing the thoughts, not identifying with the thoughts, and then we're going to go into a little bit how Star Wars pushes on the spiritual identity to the Jedis.
Through predictive programming, essentially. That's what they're getting at, is be able to tap into the ether and the infinite energy, the Tao, the all-flowing energy.
The force and Star Wars, exactly.
Yes. But first, we'll talk about not reacting to things that happen in your everyday life and observing them rather than just being so quick to react to your negative emotions or even positive things.
And it comes just with emotional intelligence is the biggest thing. And like, on the spiritual path, they have self-knowledge, emotional intelligence, and then spiritual intelligence, right? So emotional intelligence is when you stop identifying with the thoughts as me. Instead of saying I am angry or I am sad, say where is this anger coming from? Where is this sadness coming from? And start asking yourself questions and questioning the ego, because the ego is what is telling you to feel these different emotions and identifying with them.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you are not your emotions, right? So your thoughts and emotions are separate. You could have all of these negative or positive thoughts, your ego talking to you all day long, but it can never beat you. Those thoughts and emotions can never beat you if you just allow them to be. And like Corey said, you aren't sad. You can't say I am sad, I am angry, I am even happy, rather. All you are is just your true beingness. Like you are nothing, you're just the all, right? And when you identify with these emotions, that's when you could bring distortion into this reality.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where like a lot of mental illness in our society comes from, and kind of not taking control of your own body, taking control of your own mind, and just constant dopamine too. A little bit off the emotions, but I posted a video yesterday about the dopamine, right? And after school on YouTube, check them out. They had a great video on dopamine and how dopamine, too much of it, is detrimental to a human. Think about eating fast food and video games and streaming services and all this. But when you can control and make that dopamine for yourself, and Troy Casey says, get high in your own supply, right? Like, get high and make yourself feel that way. Make the dopamine for yourself through working out, meditation, music. You could do it through art, cooking, positive relationships in your life. All these different things produce dopamine, but when you have the influx levels from these external substances and external ways of achieving them, drugs and fast food and such, that could be detrimental to your health, mental health.
Definitely, for sure. In today's world, we have a lot of that. Like, you turn on the news for the last couple of days, and we all know what's been on the news. I won't get into it, but just that constant of such low vibrational acts happening in our world right now, and it gets everyone all riled up. I found myself riled up, angry about this situation yesterday, talking with my parents about the whole situation, because it will get you mad and upset that no one is taking control and like fixing these matters in our world today, right? But you can't allow that to ruin your day, essentially. It is a tragic thing, but when you separate yourself from it and just observe it and allow it to it happen, just allow it to be.
Think of it as a dance, right? You're going through the dance of life.
The dance of life.
These things happen in life. Like, obviously, we look at them as terrible in the news and low vibrational, however we label it, but all of these things were just scripted out. And we're watching essentially the movie of the universe. We're just experiencing whatever's going on here, right? And, like, God wants a show. Like, when you think about it, like, you think God wants everybody just happy all the time? Like, I think it's like, if I was to make a movie, there would be happy highs and lows, and that's the same way in the universe. There's going to be highs and lows, but at the end of the day, the only way you feel and resonate with them is if you identify.
Yeah, and like it's just like, again, the yin yang, like the balance of everything, right? Like, there's the happy emotions, there's the sad emotions, there's the feminine, masculine energy, like the balance to the universe, right? But at the end of the day, that yin and yang is still one big circle, right? It's still the all-encompassing of both sides to each coin, right? So we just have to start being the all rather than identifying as these negative or positive emotions, and just become the all, like Ram Dass says, like, be here now. you can't have these negative or positive thoughts. Not that you shouldn't have positive thoughts, but like Corey said, having too much dopamine from these external sources, can be detrimental to our health or our journey.
And even identifying with the positive emotions too. So like a lot of times we use negative examples because it's easier to find yourself in those.
But when you feel like, people get like so caught up in like positive things, right? Like you'll get a promotion at your job or something and ride that high for maybe a year or so, and then like you honestly will lose touch in the pathway. Like for example, I kind of fell off my spiritual path a little bit last year because like I stopped meditating, not on purpose, but I just stopped. It kind of got out of my routine a little bit, and like, but I thought like, oh, I don't have to meditate because like I already know all this stuff, but like I don't know anything, so like you can't be riding the highs. You can't be like,
because think about when that high,
because that was my ego. That was my ego telling me like, yo, you don't have to do this.
Yeah,
you already know this. Like I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. We don't know anything.
But like back to that job, like you get a good job, you get a new girlfriend, you're all happy, like, oh, like this is amazing. But then if you lose that thing, you're gonna feel that separation from that thing, because the only reason that external thing was providing you happiness is because you were identifying with it. It's, like it goes hand in hand.
Becoming the singular and not separating yourselves from these things. Like you put like, if sometimes you have positive things happen in your life, you'll put so much of your energy and identify like so hard with these positive things in your life, and then you lose your true self in that dance essentially, because like you'll lose that one day because everything comes and goes, right? You'll lose that new job, or you'll lose that girlfriend, or that parent.
It'll just lose
anything, and it'll lose its magic, right? And then you're so devastated, and then you don't know how to cope after, because like maybe like you don't find your way back into that good path you were once in.
But the thing is, like when you can ride a high from like I feel great for getting this interview. That's not what we're saying. Don't feel good about it. We're saying just experience it and see it for what it is, because say that job you get is your passion and you start following that passion, right? And you ride it out. When you're here now, be here now. When you're here now, just experiencing this, whatever you're passionate about. What, for me, if it was guitar or art or this, like if we could just ride, like following your passion and being able to just flow with it. And the flow of the universe, we talk about the Tao and the force, right? And just like following the flow is just like being it, because when you just are it, you attract that energy you're putting out.
Yeah, and that's why like we always say like we are God and you guys are God, because all God is infinite intelligence, infinitely creating, right? So like God essentially will reward, or the universe, not reward, but like you will gain the energy that you are putting out into the universe. It will always come back to you. So when you're abundant in life with whatever you're doing, if you're constantly creating and putting out those creative energy, whatever, right, it will flow back to you. Even things with like money, like people say like money consciousness, like I read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it's all money consciousness and tapping into that reality of money, right? And then it will come into your life tenfold of whatever, right? But Napoleon Hill talks about not thinking of money as just like this material source that we need to survive, but this other raw energy, because like we said, everything is raw energy. It has no positive or negative, it just is energy, right? So like when you look at the money as energy, it will flow to you. And when you're constantly creating and putting out good vibes, you will be rewarded from the universe. And with that reward of maybe more money, you could help the world 100 times more when you start getting that what's the word? Not reward, but getting that abundance back.
Yeah, you're just abundant in energy, and an abundance in energy a lot of times attracts an abundance in attention, in money, in just love towards you and the world, right?
Yeah, when you're putting
just
out
feeling
love,
abundance
you're gonna
all
get
the time,
love.
because you're going to feel an abundance of all emotions, whether they be positive or negative. But it's much easier to feel those positive ones when you have an abundance of them. And like money, think of money as energy and the karma of our modern society. Like if you're giving out positive karma and you're putting out positive energy in the world through philanthropy or building schools or something like that, like you're going to reap those rewards, whether it be monetary or energetic.
Yeah. And like you could talk about Patagonia, how Patagonia is different from a lot of other businesses in the sense that they do more research and development than any other company. They spend about $3 million a year on research and development, and then they take it and make a new innovation, and then they give it away. For example, they gave their idea of like organic cotton t-shirts and like jeans and stuff. They gave all that research away to Levi, who is the biggest producer of jeans in the country, right? And then on top of that, Walmart is the biggest retail store that pushes those jeans, right? Mm-hmm. So Patagonia, a smaller company, is giving all this research away, and at the same time, they were making a better market because they were making everything equal in a sense. But then they're still at the top of the market in what they do. So it's like, how are they? It's like a big question in the business world right now that like you could still maximize profit and not have to like hoard all your intelligence and stuff, mm-hmm. and just give it away. And you can, because by giving it away, you're forced to constantly innovate and constantly create so that you could stay at the top of that market.
Precisely,
and that's just
like
what
we're
everything.
Doing right now.
Yeah, that is with everything.
Like, we're just trying to spread knowledge, and like when you put your energy in a positive way out in the world, whether it be knowledge or just general loving emotions towards other people. But we're posting videos every day.
If we can do it, that's what, like, if we could amass, 31,000 on TikTok. Mm-hmm. If two of us random kids can gain that and attract that into our lives, then like literally anyone else can.
Because I think we take it for granted.
We do take it for granted. That's so many. The
audience that we have. Like think about talking in front of a sold out venue, mm-hmm. and like that's how many people we would have following us. Like we take for granted our spot in the universe. Like not just like here on planet Earth, but like okay, we have these good homes with families. We just had some technical difficulties, but we're back.
Yeah, we're back. We were talking about how we can take all, like the phone and everything, and just how much information and knowledge is accessible to us just like through the phone, and using that knowledge and bring it into your everyday life,
and all these
not
books
just talking about it.
Yeah.
And not, or just not, because you could read a book.
You could read a book
and just read the book and never apply what the book is actually talking about into your everyday life. And in order to live an optimal life, you must optimize it and start doing these practices that we talk about and that like you read, and the knowledge that you gain, you must practice it and bring it into everyday mindful practices.
And there's so many good books out there for learning about this stuff from like a reputable source. And you have David R. Hawkins.
Yeah, not just us.
Yeah, and there's David R. Hawkins. I love his book. Eckhart Tolle. Dolores Cannon has a lot of good stuff. I haven't looked deeply into her, but ACIM, A Course in Miracles, like all these different texts can show you the way to go about life and apply it. Like when you're walking around, a conscious person is consciously thinking about everything. Not thinking about it, but observing what they're thinking about and observing this reality. And when you walk around, you do it. Like I do it at school every day. Like I see people projecting their emotions. I see people trying to, oh, this is all with all my ego. And then when you start seeing it in other people, you start seeing it in yourself. Mm-hmm. You say, when you start judging other people, you're ultimately judging yourself. And just consciously looking at the world and seeing it for what it is and observing it and not making judgments on it, but analyzing it.
Yeah, because judging is a really bad thing to do, because for example, I learned this in class this year that our ego is constantly judging every part of our day, right? It's just our ego is constantly making decisions, and we're constantly identifying them and passing judgment onto people that we seek not maybe as good as us for whatever reason. But when you look at it as a oneness consciousness and a collective mind, the hive mind, you can't pass judgment on anyone or anything, right? because when you're passing judgment onto yourself, you're essentially projecting those negative judgments onto yourself because you are that person. And like you also don't know what those other people have been through that led them to be making these decisions, right? And there's the great example of a 18-year-old kid in Nazi Germany right before World War II started could have moved to Argentina, right? And he'd be living on the beach, not a care in the world, while World War II was happening. But maybe his buddy, who wasn't lucky enough to move to Argentina, had to become a soldier for the Nazis, right? And then was forced to act in such heinous crimes against humanity, right? And like, but really it's just like the reality of those two same people, but they just got thrown into two different realities.
Two different situations.
And then you're going to pass judgment on the one who was committing these acts when he was just following orders.
Mm-hmm. And obviously not that is right.
No, it's not right. But
yeah.
I'm just saying it's like that could have been us if we were born in Germany in the 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been you too. So it's like that's not the only example, obviously, but like that's like one big one because that's like people
It's
are
just
like,
the
yo,
situation.
people are like, I would never do that. You think if that was you were working for Nazi Germany during the Holocaust, like I would never do that to someone.
It's just the socialization process.
You would.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that, I forget what it's called, the experiment where there's a doctor and then two patients, right? One patient is getting zapped and the other person is giving the shot, but they can't see each other. And the doctor is just another random person, but the doctor's in a white cloak or whatever, doctor clothes, and he has authority. So like the person giving the zap is listening to this doctor to level out how much pain this person is receiving.
You can only hear them yell.
Yeah, but they're not receiving any pain at all. And the thing with it is if you answer a question wrong, you get zapped, and you keep answering these questions wrong, and the voltage goes up every time. And you could be at a lethal dose of voltage, and you'll hear the people screaming because like they think they're getting shot too. So like they're reacting, and then the doctor's telling you, no, it's okay, keep going, and you keep turning up that dial, and essentially you'd be killing this person if you were listening to this authority doctor who's not a doctor. And that's just like it was like I forget the percentages, but X amount of men did it, and then X amount of women did it even more. So it's like when we identify with authority figures and we just take that into our lives and like listen to them for what we should be doing. And we do it with politics, we do it with religion too. And a lot of these
authority figures don't have this emotional intelligence and stuff like that to even be putting out positivity into the world. Not putting out positivity, but like they aren't aware of their projections onto the world too, and we're just feeding off of it.
You could only have so much power without being conscious of it, right? So like if you're not conscious of the power that you hold, you could easily project that and create false realities and distortions in our realities without even being aware of it. And like you can't even, like again, you can't pass judgment on these people because they don't have the EQ to even realize what they're doing is bad. And like it's not their fault because they just never were taught it. They never practice it. So like you get into these positions of power and then just project, and because that ego feeds off of all that power. That's why Robert Greene wrote the 48 Laws of Power. And the 48 Laws of Power, a lot of people look at that book as like such a negative book because it's really manipulative, and that it's like manipulating people through emotional intelligence to get what you want in life and gaining power. But he wrote the book for people that like aren't in those positions of power, and like that, so people can learn. Because there's the high status people that are in power that always had that like alpha character trait, that were always dominant in their fields, and like they're not the ones that have to learn the power. We're the ones that have to learn the power. So like that book is even banned in prison. You can't read that book in prison because it teaches it may make a prisoner even more bad. It could polarize them even more negatively, but it was also making them better people.
Yeah, because this knowledge is just like how you use it on the world. You could use this knowledge to project negatively or positively.
Like we were talking about
Think about the dark side of the Force.
Yeah.
Think about the dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force, right? They're using that same
It's the same
discipline,
stuff.
the same knowledge, but they're using different intent behind it. And that's all we can do with our consciousness is put intent behind things. Whether we do it intently or unintentionally, but there is an intent, a subconscious intent behind everything you do.
Yeah, because everything is just essentially an energy transfer, right? So when you're doing these, like Corey's, well, he's not reading, but he started reading, what's it called, Magic
with a CK.
Magic with a
Aleister
CK,
Crowley.
with Aleister Crowley, who was known to be like a Satanist, blah blah blah, like witchcraft person, whatever he was doing, right? But using these same spells for negative polarization. But then there's the same people, like the monks and the yogis, who have these same spells and stuff, maybe a little different, but they're using it for the good and the light and the good side, not the dark. Mm-hmm. And the same thing in Star Wars. There's the
light side of the
rebels,
Force and the dark side of the Force. There's the Republic and there's the Empire. Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
it's just
how you use that, what intentions you put behind things.
and think about the Jedi warriors and that monastic training period that they have to go through. The younglings, and they're brought up. The special ones are brought up through this monastery, essentially the Jedi temple, and they're essentially trained their entire lives to be in touch with themselves, be in touch with the Force, which is the natural flow of the universe. And it's just very similar to these monks going on retreats and these Hindu temples and devotees to one guru, right? Think about Master Yoda, and everybody that's under him is essentially a devotee to Yoda, not in the sense that they worship him, but they take his guidance as a guru and apply it directly to their use of the Force.
Like, you could even think of Yoda having clairvoyance in a sense, because we were watching the first
new Obi-Wan,
Obi-Wan and the Star Wars, the Clone Wars or whatever, and like when you watch Yoda in battle, he could already know what the droids or like the enemy is doing before they even act on that. And that's essentially clairvoyance, where like he's so high conscious that he's tapped into the minds of all around. He's tapped into that collective mind. So like he can see something before it happens because he already knows what move you're gonna make. And there's like Maharaji, who was Ram Dass's guru or teacher, and we talk about the story of the biscuit, right? Where Ram Dass went to wherever he was and he wanted a biscuit, but he said he knew that people of high holiness is what they were calling him. Don't be eating biscuits. That's like a low conscious thing to do, right? But he said, whatever, I'll take the biscuit and eat it once I leave so these people don't see me eat the biscuit. And he got back to the monastery or wherever he was, and Maharaji was like, yo, how was that biscuit? And Ram Dass was like, yo, how do you know this?
Yeah, because he was just tapped in.
He was just tapped in.
Ram Dass is just consciousness, and Maharaji knows that he's just consciousness, so he can essentially see through him. But like, think about Yoda, why he has that clairvoyance and the intuition and the Force that he has so powerfully, is because he's lived so long as well. Mm-hmm. Not that he wasn't powerful when he was younger.
Yoda
but
could be Anunnaki.
Yeah, Yoda is like 300 something years old in. Like,
might be older. I don't know. I'm not a big Star Wars fan.
Think about how high conscious you could get practicing these principles for 300 years, devoting your life in a retreat, and he's in the whatever planet he's on in the swamp, and just practicing lifting rocks and all this. In the same sense, if you devote your entire life to this spiritual practice and consciously being able to see yourself from a third-person perspective and not identifying with this body and mind, you could reach that high consciousness.
Yeah, and it's not even rather reaching it. You can't, because you'll never reach the enlightenment, right? There's never going to be a day where like all of a sudden you have been enlightened, right? It's not like a snap of a finger thing. You're not going to be sitting in meditation one day and like, holy crap, I'm in the void now, or like I've like projected my conscious further out into the universe than I ever have before. It's always here. That's why Ram Dass says, be here now. When we can get, it's a distortion of the spiritual path that like we're always like looking for something else, but in reality it's always been here, and we just have to tap into it. It's a remembering. It's the presence. Like, it's a remembering. Like we're not like creating, or what's the saying?
I don't know.
We're not creating our reality. We're just remembering it essentially.
Yeah. Like Matthias is definitely.
I messed up the quote, but we're always remembering.
Yeah, and like
that
the spiritual
happens.
path is like a circle. Like
It
it
is a
keeps
circle.
going around and around. Think of it as an octave, right? As the musical note goes around the 7 notes and it reaches the other one and it's an octave higher. Like that spiritual path just keeps going around and around and you keep raising in consciousness. And
Like we can't even grasp infinity.
no, there's
Not even a little bit.
yes.
But like there are people out there that can grasp it a little more than maybe me or you can.